Started about 2 years ago, and I came in. I worked in drug treatment for 9 years, so I came in and was doing like policy work around addiction and around treatment, and then, to cut a long story short, the organisation's changed slightly, and then I was head of comms for a bit, and now I'm a director. So now me and Lizzie, we run Volteface and own Volteface as a company. So my job's changed slightly, well, massively. And our role is to basically lobby government and the media for drug reform and drug policy. We naturally focus quite heavily on cannabis because I think that's the only place you're going to see meaningful drug reform. We're not going to see legalisation of MDMA. We're not going to see illegal, as much as people might want it. We're going to see cannabis first, and then these other things will follow. So we think it's our like ideological principle that well, it's not so much an ideology more than just like a fundamental principle that we think that's fight the battles that you can win. You can win the battle for cannabis reform. We can get regulated cannabis here in the UK. Once that's done, then work and examine some of the others. You know, always advocate for decriminalisation of drugs, because drug users being arrested is ridiculous. Like it's that's just bad policy. But focus on cannabis. Our main strand of work, and the thing that we do most work in the media for, is around cannabis.
So, have you seen any like harmful effects on young people through these legal highs?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways they don't exist anymore, right? Like you're saying, because of the Novel Psychoactive Substances Act, like legal highs aren't really a thing. But that term and the sort of category that drugs, you know, those drugs fall into, like spice, synthetic cannabis, was definitely a thing when I worked in treatment. What I found is that like kids' use of drugs is often availability based. Like the reason cannabis is so popular in young people is they can get it so easily. It's just really easy to get weed. Really easy to get weed in school. So the mass availability of the drug means that kids are like, yeah, all right, I'll try it, yeah, I'll have some of that, I'll do it. And for a while, legal highs, when they were sold in like shops on high streets, that was why young people were using them. And then the Novel Psychoactive Substances Act is a problem. Like it's an issue. It's not been particularly good, because what's happened is it's just pushed the use of those drugs from young people into vulnerable cohorts, like the groups that you see taking spice in Manchester, because they're not available in the shops anymore. So it's kind of good that young people don't do them anymore, but it's kind of bad that it's been pushed to the black market. And when I worked in treatment, there was a guy that I was seeing, and he was making it and selling it. Right, he was like a spice dealer, and he was telling me about how it was made and all this sort of stuff. He had this lab with these Polish guys like bagging it up for him, and I was like, it must be crap for you now they brought that act in though, because like you can't sell it to the shops. Now you've got to sell it to dealers. And he was like, mate, you're joking, I'm making more money than they were before. Like now I'm selling absolutely loads. So what happened is that drug just got pushed from the shops onto the streets, and now it's just sold to the groups that you see smoking it in Manchester and you'll see taking it around here, which is a problem in itself. Did I see any problematic use of it with young people while I went to treatment? Yeah, loads. Like I had people would smoke all kinds of synthetic cannabis. There was one lad who had 3 or 4 incidents where the ambulance had to be called. He'd get really paranoid, freak out, and start attacking people. He really, really, really problematic behaviour, completely freaked out. So it's not I mean, this is back to the nuance of drugs, right? People will say, oh, we should just legalise drugs, we should just these things should be legal. Well, some drugs you probably don't want to just advertise and promote. Like for me, the fact that young people could just walk into a shop and buy legal highs was a problem, and it was leading to problematic effects. Like, okay, that wasn't every single young person that used, but there does need to be some level of like education and control around availability of those drugs. Do you see what I mean? Because and it's the same argument we make around spice, right? Do you really want synthetic cannabis to be available to buy in a shop? Like we spoke to some of the guys around the street, they'd be like, yeah, I'd love to buy from a shop rather than a dealer, but what if weed was available? Would you take that instead? You know, what if there was a safer alternative? Would you do that? So sometimes like the nuance of drugs and problematic drug use comes down, it's a little bit more complicated than just whether should it be sold in a shop or should it be illegal. And legal highs are an example of that. Do you see what I mean? Because it's good that you can't just get them in a shop, but now it's used by the homeless populations and populations that experience a lot of trauma and are unwell. But young people have now just like diverted to smoking weed.
These kind of highs, such as like nitrous oxide and things like that, there's been a lot of reports in the news of people that have been starved of oxygen in the brain because of a use of maybe excessively using like balloons, they call it, and stuff like that. Do you think that should be viewed as the same as maybe a bad trip from taking like a Class A drug or something like that? Do you think they should be viewed as the same in the media to kind of make users aware of this, that it can have a harmful effect on you?
We should just be honest with people. Like, nitrous oxide is a drug that people are given, women are given while pregnant, right? Like gas and air, that's nitrous oxide. Like, how many women overdose whilst giving birth on nitrous oxide? It probably happened, but I've never heard of it. Like, I guess you probably find a record of someone taking too much somewhere, but the reality is that drug is relatively safe. If you take too much of it and you don't know what you're doing and you mess up, then it can be a problem and you can die. And when that happens, we need to have really honest dialogues with people around it. However, it needs to come with the nuance that, I say that word a lot working in drug policy, but like, every day an under 18, like a young person under the age of 18 dies through drinking too much alcohol, but there's around 365-ish, sometimes more, sometimes less, deaths of alcohol, but I don't see them in the media. Like, every day I'm not reading a story of like young person dies through drinking too much alcohol. Yeah, every now and again you get these NOS stories, right, or you'll get like an MDMA story or Coke story or whatever else. So we have to have really honest conversations with young people, and I think it's okay for it to be reported. I think, like, if a young person dies from taking too much NOS, it's okay for it to appear in the media, but it needs to appear in the media alongside a recognition that this is a really small percentage of people that take this drug, and drugs like alcohol, we lose people every day. So like, I think it's fine for reporting, it's fine for it to be talked about, but it's got to come with that wider understanding and wider information, really.